Fair warning, I prevalently find the monomyth in Genesis and can demonstrate that it's no different than anything else from antiquity. That the Genesis itself, the God part, all of that is analogous shell. That those are not what is contained inside the story. So if you need religion to be true, I apologize. I'm going to show something because in today's day and age, we're holding on to a lot of supernatural things and not dealing with current human issues. It's difficult to say things like that at times. It doesn't make sense. We're dealing with issues every day, all the time. What I mean is that we're not dealing with issues on a global scale. We're doing it all locally and ignoring the bigger picture. If you're following along with this, welcome back. There's not much going on. There's going to be a lot of repetitive stuff, but there's a couple of new elements coming in. We'll get on to the next tablet here. And I'm working to really try to understand the monomyth well enough. I can see it pretty well. It's harder to show it, I think. I'm not quite sure the best way to do that. But Genesis is framed on that monomyth right off the bat. There's a creation myth that appears elsewhere, and then there is a monomyth network that begins. And I'm working to demonstrate that Genesis is nothing more than a different version of carrying that monomyth. The monomyth is for us that are going to turn inward. That's a self-healing path. And it is contained in all the material from antiquity. Well, a lot of material from antiquity. Joseph Campbell saw it, hero of 1,000 faces. And all I can say is what I have here is unique. It's speculative. If you go through it, it's something that is demonstrable, though. If you listen to what I say and go, I'm going to take those pieces and parts and make them part of my life, it should fit with you. And in that manner, it would be demonstrable, not in a way that you can, like show somebody how to paint or something like that. Not that kind of a demonstration. It's really being able to recognize the template and say, yes, I'm going to see that. I have the capacity to either turn it inward and use it and take that path, or at least to academically see how it works, how it is a mental process and how it ties us with the way the universe works, the energy basis of the universe, how everything cycles and how it's life emerges from, we'll get into the material. It basically teaches at the core level that life unfolds for us based on what we have up here, our mental experiences. And that in order to change our life experiences and the way we flow through the cosmos is to change the way we're holding our mental experiences, the memory, the emotional state of the memories that we're holding is what is teaching us to do. And people don't want to do that. It doesn't sound very fun. And it doesn't sound like, there's no promises there. It just tells us that's what you do to turn inward. So I think, as within, so without, I'm going to do that. I want my life to be better. It didn't start out okay. It's okay now. So taking this path was something that was effective for me. People would look at it and say, yeah, I see the value in it. Another heads up, and if you're a spiritual seeker, you will know this. When you use the material properly, it is your path. It's your material. It goes into your psyche. You're not following anybody at this level. So if the material is something that is being used in such a manner that you're following and worshiping, you're on the outside. If you are using it by yourself, understanding it and tying it to your own life experiences and interacting with it in a way to change your life, you're on it. In the meantime, Genesis is a box. It's an ark. It's a carrier case that is treated as history by some people and as complete BS by others, when in all reality, there's something there. It didn't happen. It's not historical. It's not baloney. And just to head off anybody who says it is historical, they found Jericho and things, there's plenty of reasons to say that these stories contain elements that are actually true elements. How can you say it's not true? Bottom line, these things are there. And that's because that's when they made this story. It's on the template, but it's made for those people at that time. And there's a certain sequence of things that happen on that template. There's a calling, there's a crossing of the threshold, there's getting help, aid along the way, reconnecting with the self. There's a number of things that are sequencing, but they're being held in terms that are analogous terms. So for me, I would explain Jericho not as something that actually happened. You don't look at that and say, wow, the city was found, therefore The trumpets and the marching around and the blasting and all of that actually happened too. That's kind of a stretch, don't you think? I think what is happening is that people are writing a story and saying, okay, now we need to have that. Jericho over there is this bad city. It's been destroyed, burned down, sacked, whatever. So when we're building this story and giving it to our people, we know Jericho is the bad place. We don't like them. Yeah, it's already been destroyed. So this is the part of the story. So-and-so is called. Joshua is called. He goes and, he goes through the sequence. He is the called person for that. And the destruction of Jericho is the destruction of the part of you that you have to destroy. And do you remember this story? Do you remember they marched 7 times around? And what we're working on here, if you're following, what does 7 represent? The point in creation where we are naked, unashamed, and in the garden. We just had a rebirth right there. Noah, the earth is drowned out and you start over. Poking the eye out of the ogre. Same thing. It's sequencing there. So, yeah, it looks like it might have happened, but in all reality, when you think it through, there's a better reason for Jericho to be, or for those historical elements to be there, than to say that they're historical. There's a reason, yeah. They're built for those people at that time. They're carrying them in a verbal storytelling culture. Let's put ourselves in their place. We don't read, we don't write, but we know who the king is and who those people are over there. We talk. So when you know this template and you are creating your local version of the story and disseminating it in the population, you're going to use those elements. Think about this. If you have the template and it's about me, it's about my life, it sequences this way. It's my job to create a story for my population on this template and put it into the culture. So I just take my people at that time, whoever they are, and I hand them a package that I've created for them, a story that's, like in today's day and age, in a political climate, you hand them a package, literally, that says, here, you are the chosen ones. When you cross the threshold, you will defeat them, and they will fall before you, and life will become grand afterwards. You've just passed along the template in a way that they're going to carry it. And they have no idea. You add in the names of the political parties and the groups and the leaders of that time as well. And all you're doing is creating a story on the template to go into the population. Later on, thousands of years, somebody could look at that and go, wow, this must have really happened historically. When honestly, they're just creating a story and putting it on that template. And Jericho, they could have just been the others. The story only proves that there's a story for some reason, for a variety of reasons, actually. There's a number of reasons for that story. It's not single-faceted. It contains the template. It contains directions for a people. It contains the belief system. It contains the idea that you got Big Brother watching over you. There's a lot wrapped up in this, in a growing culture before they didn't have our civilization. We still act out. Look at society now with all of our rules and laws and police and everything else. And the idea back then that something is watching over you would have been incredibly important if that was a belief. And that's still in place today. If you were to grab the template from Greek myth, for example, you're going to find evil people that took over things that you need to defeat, or demons, creatures, all mythical ogres and hydras and a variety of things like that are being used to represent that evil part of the inside of us. And it's just carried in a wonderful story. These are components that play out inside of us as well. The entire story plays out, and those represent a part of us. Jericho's the same thing. It's carried in a culture in a way that is no longer fantasy. It's meant to be like, this is very strictly adhering to our actual on-the-ground beliefs. Here, this is what we feel. This is what we've been told. So it has a different impact. As I try to get rid of my modern biases and try to imagine living back then, I realize my global exposure is not there. It's incredibly limited. The only thing I learn is what I'm told by people. Talking. That's it. That's what I learned about beyond my own senses, my own world, what I can see. And a story like that would be, that would be very viable to me. I would look at something like that, and here's some people that were an enemy that were destroyed, and okay, that's a good story. I like that. You couldn't do that today. You couldn't make up a new story. We see too much. We know too much. You can't create a religion again. What astounds me is that from history till now, we're not making that connection. We've lost the perception of what life was like back then, and that many people treat these like they happened. And you know what's weird? Religion is just big, the biggest one. There are people that believe, you read this other stuff, there's people that believe that Nibiru is cycling around, that there's this planet that's out there someplace with giants that's coming back. There's all manner of fantasy thinking that you go, oh my God, you guys are not seeing, these are analogs. Fallen angels, Ajiji, Anunnaki, all of these things that early on that take us over, that need to be destroyed. They're analogous terms for who and what we are being carried in a fantasy manner. We got to get into their world. Let's pick apart Abrahamic monotheism for a second right here. You go from Greek myth or Enuma Elish, Babylonian stuff, and there's a number of gods. There's a number of elements that are all held, that are part of the psyche, that come down. They represent parts of our past that were so strong that they took over. That's why they're given a lot of power at that time. It's just a way to carry the story. They're not real gods. They're powerful parts of us that are bad, that turn bad. What do we do with monotheism? We say, we're getting rid of all those gods. There's only one God. That's crazy. You guys are all over the place. We're creating a new story. But you still need to have those elements in there. So you put in angels and demons and fallen angels and a variety of... They pack the house anyway. Yeah, there's no difference there. So Zeus being the prime god with a bunch of other gods around sounds a lot like the God of Abraham being the one God with a bunch of other things around that are doing the same thing that the Greek gods would have been doing. So any apologists out there? Is that what you guys do? Well, if there's one God in one heaven, where did everything else come from? Where did all this other stuff come from that God doesn't seem to have any control over? How do you explain that stuff? I actually can, so I don't need to be an apologist. Yeah, these are just the different elements of us they have to carry the same story. That's why it looks the way it does. I could do a whole video on this. As I'm learning and going along, this is actually how it emerges. I'm just kind of continually reverse engineering and getting behind what is going on and understanding how these things emerge. There's a cause and effect. We see the effect. What I'm doing is looking for the cause. Once we find the cause, we can see what drives it. That's how it actually works inside of us too. When we're acting out, we find the cause, we can interact with it. In this case, the cause is a belief system, and it's interacting with huge amounts of the population. It's the same thing. And, all of these are cycles, sequences, things that are going on that are not being recognized by people. And I got so much pattern recognition going on right now that for some reason I think of the Wizard of Oz right now, peeling back the curtain to see what's behind it. Doesn't that sound the same thing? Yeah. It's weird. People who believe the religion, to me, are the ones who get it the least. The atheists get it more, because the theist is saying this shell, the supernatural thing, is true. That's crazy. That means the Tower of Babel, the Great Flood, all that these are just supernatural things that happen and there's nothing you can do about it. It's in the Bible. Bruh, you can't question that. That's astounding. For people to say, no, that's not true at all, is not astounding at all to me. However, the realization that it is a story nesting something deeper is not astounding. It just astounds me that people still look at that and say, you can't question that, it's true. That's astounding. How disconnected are you from Jesus right now? If we can look at him like a Buddha, can we do that? I'm going to go ahead and do that. Jesus tells us to seek and you will find, knock and it will be opened. There's no caveats there. He's telling you to just go for anything. He also tells us to enter the narrow gate. Many are the ways looking outward, standing outside, only the solitary. Make the two into one. The material has all the parts in there telling us to turn inward and take the mote out of our eye, our third eye, our spiritual eye. It's all right here. We just have to know how to extract it, how to turn it inward and take the analogs and convert them into what they actually mean inside. Cleaning the inside of the cup isn't about dishes. It's about wiping out what I'm holding inside of me that is creating the flow in life. And I wasn't even clear on that. The cup is an analog for me. I am the cup. And what needs to be cleaned out of it is what I am holding inside. So those elements of the verse become analogous to component parts of my inner being. There we go. We made the shift. Jesus is telling us to do exactly what we're doing right now. Okay, you see I'm still building this. I hope you guys have survived with me. All right, I'm going to get into this, and you know what? I really want to glaze over this. I do. I see some things going on here that are certain patterns. I recognize what they have going on, and I want to hurry up through it. But I realize I have to slow down. I don't think that's a good idea. And this is what I think of. Number one, I think, why am I so thorough with this stuff if it's this boring and mundane? And I think there might be something in there I'm missing, and it's deserving of going through. But I continue to try to put myself back in their position. And one thing that over the years, I've created this imagination place in my mind where I'm a little shepherd boy, some 15-year-old kid from 4,000, 5,000 years ago. And I'm out for, a month or so on my own. Back then, you got your world around you. That's it. There's no media. You have your thoughts and what you see, how you interact with the planet. That's it. And you're not even thinking about things that we think about. They're not even a part of your world. You're thinking about the girl you saw at the well last month. You're thinking about maybe getting a new cloak. Sandals are falling apart, Am I going to get my sheep to market? Life is going to be in a way that is simple while you still nevertheless have a complicated mind. And you take a story like this, the Enuma Elish, and you start working through, and it's got very complex imagery where you're stepping from one place to another and then moving back again. There's some complex things going on in here if you step back and look at it and begin to pattern it. But when we don't give it the time, we don't recognize the patterns. We don't see it beginning to emerge. And so I try to think that back then, this is what I'm doing throughout the day. I got this story and I'm working it through. I've got it memorized. And sometimes maybe somebody passing by will stop and you might share ideas or things like that. You're trying to work this stuff through, but you have time. You're doing it. Today we don't. So I think to myself, I got to give it the time. I got to be that kid because I need to understand it in the way that it was meant to be delivered. What's it doing in the population? What's it doing for me as the kid out there? Okay, blah, blah, blah. That having been said, I'll post a link below to the videos that head up to this, and let's go ahead and get started on it. Tablet 3. Then Anshar raised his voice to be heard to his officer Kaka. Hear me, Kaka, my trusted officer who I can depend upon. I am sending you on a journey to go to Lamu and Lahamu, for you are good at ascertaining a superlative communicator, so that the gods who are my fathers will gather here to me, so that all of the gods will be assembled here in my presence. And actually, let's stop right there. I want to bring the flowchart back up and let's take a look at a couple of things. What I want to bring attention to right now is we had Anshar up here and his officer Kaka. Kaka just showed up. We're going to bring those in. Kaka is a trusted officer who is going to go on a journey to Lamu and Lahamu. Remember them? They were right in the beginning. This was our earliest self. Anshar is our naked in the garden, naked and unashamed, aware self, not live life yet, but ready to begin living life. Lamu and Lahamu was before life experience was. Kaka is being developed as someone who is ascertaining, a superlative communicator. So we need to find out what that innocence is again. So that the gods who are my fathers, look at that, there are gods then in between Lamu and Lahamu that we're going to bring in there too, will gather here to me, so that all of the gods will be assembled here in my presence. Okay, let's go look at the flow chart and see what pops up there. And you know what? I got to apologize for the cumbersome nature of what I'm doing. You see, I'm so old school. I don't know how to use programs. I still have to draw pictures. But this is what I had first, so bear with me. All right, we start with Apsu and Tiamat. That is us at birth, right at birth. There is nothing yet developed. We are just there. And this is what my current thinking is on this. This could be a little flexible. In the intermixing wave, somewhere in there, two things are born, Lamu and Lahamu, the first gods. And boy, I'm thinking that this must be naked and ashamed and in the garden. I kind of keep going back and forth between that and Anshar and Kishar. But I think that it's a little bit different than Genesis, and I have to get away from my thinking on that. I believe that Lamu and Lahamu is naked and unashamed and in the garden. And that Anshar and Kishar are going to be iterations of ourselves still as children before we've really begun judging life and having life experiences. So there's a time in between Lamu and Lahamu and Anshar and Kishar where we are self-aware, we're growing, we're developing, we're having fun, we're enjoying life. And the gods, everything that exists in that point are going to be just representative of our early characteristics in life, our childhood, innocent self. And what we have now, that time has gone on, we've got issues. So as we're going back and resolving it, we have Anshar and Kishar here. The Kaka is whatever ascertains. Anshar is using Kaka in this story to go back and talk to Lamu and Lahamu to ascertain something, to figure out how to, get rid of the judgments, the things, the Father, the gods, the things that were there. And this was a pure time in our life back here. So this is our early self working to try and resolve, or at least letting us know perhaps that this is what we want to get back to. This might be something that shows up later in to get to the kingdom of heaven within, do so like a child 7 days old. That we're looking to get in this period of our life right here where we're children and we are not yet jaded, or we have not yet developed from our life experiences. We haven't become products of our life experiences yet. All right, is everybody on board with this imagery? This is us now, today, looking back at our early self in life. Looking at when we're really little and we're playing with our Tonka trucks and dolls and not interacting very much, but we remember that and we're having fun. And at some point you're older, you're still playing, you're goofing around with your friends, playing games in the street, ball or whatever, all manner of things. But we haven't really started experiencing the pain of life yet. We haven't started judging what life is about and becoming products of ourselves. We're still in this state right there of kind of happy childhood. We're not connected to the world. We have not yet connected to the world. So it's a happy time for us because of that. And right now what we have is parts of us back then are in this region right here saying, I want this back. I want these gods back, whatever these gods were, or my qualities they're supposed to be in charge, but they've got taken over. There's other things going on. So this is a part of ourself telling our earlier self somewhere in here, let's get together and band together and determine, let's just move on. And that's where we are. And give them plenty of bread to eat and the best of wine. Then have them declare a destiny for Marduk, the hero. So you must go soon, Kaka, and place yourself before them and convey to them everything that I will now relate to you. Okay, so what we just had happen right here is that we're trying to entertain our earlier self, declare a destiny for Marduk. We want to know what we want to get this peace back again. Marduk, the hero, needs to know what this place is right here in our life. So you must go soon, Kaka, and place yourself before them and convey to them everything that I will now relate to you. Your son Anshar is the one who sent me to speak to you, and he asked me to convey his own inner thoughts, saying, Behold, Tiamat, this is our early self, who gave birth to all, who gave all birth. Yeah, she's responsible for everything, even these parts of us. This is our early self, is determined to destroy us. We've lost control of our early self. She's called together a congress and is like a deranged maniac, and the gods have all gone over to her side, every one of them. We've lost control of ourselves, and we act out. We don't have charge. We may not act out. We may just not have charge of our life, and maybe we just sit there with our heads frazzled. Even those which you give rise to have also joined her force. So that means other qualities and characteristics have all decayed. No matter what, as we move on and learn more things, those decay too. They have gathered around Tiamat and championed her cause. They were brutal and planned endlessly both day and night, grumbling and fuming, all done in the cause of making war. They called together a council of war to consider battle plans. Lady Huber, who made all. Let's stop right here. So this is just showing inner turmoil. It's all coming up again, grumbling, fumbling, mind twisting, turning. Lady Huber, who appeared out of nowhere, remember that in the chart? Lady Huber, we decided, was going to be something that emerged later that wasn't an offspring of anything, because Lady Huber emerges as a result of the pain and the shame and the hurt. Lady Huber is something in our mind that goes over and thinks of what we're going to do. We're just having some issues. I hate you. We don't verbalize it yet. This is all in our mind. Lady Huber is happening in the mind. Lady Huber is emerging as a result of our emotional pain and our life judgment of others. She brought big snakes with piercing teeth and vicious fangs. Their bodies she had infused with poison rather than blood, and she caused these raging demons to emit deadly beams and to wear mantles of brilliance so that they were like gods. Then the Lady Huber raised her voice, verbalizing the curse. There, we just went from mental to bringing it into being. We've now decided we're going to do this. Anyone who gazes at them will be stricken down with horror. They will raise up their bodies and never back down. We're too violent when that happens. Who wins? Everybody's got to get out of our way until we're finished. Even if we lose and we're outnumbered and we get pinned to the ground, we're still not going to give up until whatever this is acting out is done. Then Tiamat enlisted. Okay, so this is the subconscious. So now Tiamat is the physical self enlisting from the mental self these angry qualities. However, they're going to emerge and they're going to become something different. So they're going to manifest into something a little bit different. Then Tiamat enlisted a horned snake, a Mashusu dragon, a Lamu hero, a Nugalu devil, a mad dog, a scorpion man, brutal Umu devils, half man, half fish, and half man, half bull, carrying ruthless weaponry who reveal no fear in battle. So all of those are going to be analogous to something in their culture that probably are something that means something. We can just say encompass everything, whatever comes up that isn't good. They're probably putting more into the story here. Again, we want to work through this in our mind and put all the pieces together. Her commands were so portentous that none could be ignored, and in addition to these, she recruited 11 more likewise. I don't know what that 11 is. And above all her children of the gods who had assembled, she conferred upon King U, the chief rank amongst them all, bestowing the generalship of her army and rule of the conquerors, to uphold the spear to signify battle and gather the warriors. She had given him high command of the entire combat force, and placed him to be seated upon the throne of rule, saying, I have conjured a spell in your name, making you foremost among the gods of Congress. You now rule all of the gods. You will reign supreme, for further you will be my soulmate. Your orders shall not be disregarded among the Anuki. She conveyed to him the tablet of fate, clasping it at his chest. What you say will not be altered, and you will speak the law. So after King U had received his... I'm going to stop right there. Okay, if you are following along, this is repeating from the previous tablets, this part right here. This is where now your previous being is just repeating the story. This is what's happening, but it's showing a way that there's a repetition happening, but it also makes the story longer. Here's what happened. Oh, I'm going to tell it to so-and-so, who then tells it to so-and-so, who then tells it to so-and-so. So these are parts of you that are passing the story along to other parts of you. How wonderful. Those guys were incredible. And then refreshing too, King U is that early, that's our early self. That's when we are growing and learning, and we got a handle on everything. Get out of the way. I know what's going on. That's King U. That's the person we look at later and go, you moron, you didn't know anything. You thought you did. But okay, so King U is right there. And King U is given, what is it? Anu power. That's what they said right there. Let's look at that. Do you remember? I know these are long and you got to go through the videos again. Anu is that, we got that passage of time. We got our Cain and Abel side right there. We got as we're adults, we've got two sides to us. And Nudamud is the one that kind of goes off and has all the bad gods and whatnot. We've got to wipe that stuff out. But Anu right here is the good way we want to go. Anu is just kind of sitting there. Anyway, King U is given the power of Anu right there. So King U's really in charge of everything that's happening this side of the passage of time, our life. Of course, if we're the right person, we will also have a Marduk in there. So let's go on and let's keep an eye on Nudamud too. He's going to pop up here soon. Anu and Nudamud, the good way, the bad way. Nudamud is going to appear again. So just bear that in mind. I don't have to refer back to the chart then. Let's just remind ourselves of where we are. So let's see, we've got King U, our early self, has been given power of all of everything. Tablet of Fate, all of that, clasped to his chest. This is the person in charge. This is our early self in charge. So let's start at the bottom two lines. What you say will not be altered, and you will speak the law. Yeah, this King U being told you're in charge. So after King U had given his rank, been given Anu power, and had pronounced the fates of his sons, the gods. Okay, what is that right there? Pronounce the fates of his sons, the gods. This is our earlier self telling, the way I act out, the way I do things, the way that I experience life, the way that I'm going to react and respond, I decide that right now. So yeah, this is pretty much who is in charge of your early self. What comes out of your lips would obliterate flames. Your potent poison would serve to incapacitate the mighty. So I sent forth Anu, but he was not able to stand up to her, while Nudamud was panic-stricken and merrily came back, until Marduk, your son, most capable of the gods, emerged, and he wished of his own accord to stand against Tiamat. He raised his voice to be heard and spoke these words to me. If I am to be your defender and defeat Tiamat to preserve you, then assemble a commission and proclaim a singular destiny. A singular destiny is important. That keeps us on course. That tells us where we're going and what we're doing. Throughout the stories, there's going to be something. You're seeking nirvana. You're seeking a better flow in the Tao. You're seeking the kingdom of heaven within. The Jews are seeking Canaan, the Holy Land. What do we have in Greek myth? We've got Jason is seeking the Golden Fleece. In Roman myth, all the way down to King Arthur, we have in search of the Holy Grail. There's something that there is a destination that keeps you on your journey, and that is written into it. So right here, they're telling you right up front, proclaim a singular destiny. Yeah, there's precedent for this teaching right here. It appears all over. We are on a path. This is where we're headed. And every one of those is analogous for the same thing too. We're looking for a state of mind. It's a mental state of being, and a flow in the cosmos. So right up front, Marduk has been created before, and now as Marduk is getting prepared, that's what wants to know right up front, singular destiny. And remember, we just had one a little bit ago where we had a kind of conference there with our earlier selves to provide some information for Marduk. So let's see if those link up later. Then assemble a commission and proclaim a singular destiny. Then rest content among the others within Upshu Ukanaku. That's just your mental place where all of the gods reside. This is where your life lives inside of you. Rest content in your own mind. For my own words, rather than yours, will determine destiny. Whatever I accomplish will not be undone, never overturned, and the verdict that issues from my lips never be rescinded. So act in haste and declare a destiny for him with all speed, that he might then go and confront your overwhelming foe. Thus, Kaka went forth to carry out the mission given to him, and in front of the gods Lamu and Lahamu, his forebears, he knelt down, kissing the ground which lay before them. Sounds like he's hallowed ground right there, doesn't it? Then raised himself fully to stand and related these words. Your son Anshar is the one who sent me to speak to you and asked me to convey his own inner thoughts, saying, Behold, Tiamat, who gave all birth, is determined to destroy us. She called together a congress and is like a deranged maniac. And the gods have all gone over to her side, every one of them. Even those which you gave rise to have also joined her force. They have gathered around Tiamat and championed her cause. They were brutal and planned endlessly both day and night. Grumbling and fuming, all done in the cause of making war. I'm going to stop right here and let's just talk about something for a second again, because it's going to continue to emerge in this manner like this. First, look at words like even the ones you gave birth to, or even the ones you gave rise to, have also joined her force. So these are our early characteristics that are good qualities that are no longer good qualities. We've picked up bad qualities later that are on her side to begin with. But even our good self, our good qualities early on have gone over. That's what they're getting across right there. How fun. We have lost our trust, our innocence. What we're seeing is, like on the last video I made, somebody questioned about the repetitive nature of it. Why does it repeat all the time? And it does. Again, it's a storytelling culture. This is a very simple teaching, actually, in all reality. 7 tablets, but it's contained in a way that is, it's more than just a short, simple lesson. It's repetitive, and it is meant to convey a teaching that is carrying a pathway to inner healing. As we move on, they have gathered around Tiamat and championed her cause. They were brutal, planned both endlessly, both day and night, grumbling, fuming, all done in making war. They called together a council of war to consider battle plans. Lady Huber, who made all produced and unfailing weapons. So it's continuously repeating those parts, isn't it? Yeah. And these, however, are meant to be repetitive for us and to convey something for us. It's supposed to get our attention. There are other places in material where there are repeats or things that sound kind of funny. And in this case, again, I think it's very early version. They don't. There's other material that isn't written in this way. They show cycles, they show repeats, but not in this manner. It's more obscure. Wheels coming around, birth, rebirth, being painful all the time, every time you do it, that kind of stuff. Trees getting chopped down, growing back up. There's a lot of ways of showing cycles, and in this case, they're not using any of those techniques. They're repeating something, which is another way of carrying a cycle. At any rate, and this is also illustrating the idea that it is very much an internal back and forth struggle. God, I want to, before we make changes and start doing anything significant, we find that is typically the experience. You go back and forth between it, and it's difficult. In this case, though, we're building the idea that our early self is being modeled and worked at as something that is going to be what we need to get back to. Do you recognize that? Okay, let me just keep reading then and try to get through this. Again, it's going to sound repetitive. There's different parts telling the story, bringing it along. We want to memorize this. We want it memorized. Okay, so Lady Huber, who made all, produced an unfailing weapon. She brought big snakes with piercing teeth and vicious fangs. Their bodies she had infused with poison rather than blood, and she caused these raging dragons to emit deadly beams and to wear mantles of brilliance so that they were like gods. Then the Lady Huber raised her voice, verbalizing the curse. Anyone who gazes at them will be stricken down with horror. They will always raise up their bodies and never back down. Then Tiamat enlisted a horned snake, a Mashusu dragon, a Lamu hero. Notice how Lamu is Lamu and Lahamu, a Lamu hero. That sounds like a link to the past. An Ugalu devil, a mad dog, a scorpion man. Brutal Umu devils, a half-man, half-fish, a half-man, half-bull, carrying ruthless weaponry, who reveal no fear in battle. Her commands were so portentous that none could be ignored. In addition to these, she recruited 11 more likewise. And above all of her children, of the gods who had assembled, she conferred upon King U the chief rank amongst them all, bestowing the generalship of her army and rule of the Congress, to hold aloft the spear to signify battle and gather the warriors. She had given him high command of the entire combat force, and placed him to be seated upon the throne of rule, saying, I have conjured a spell in your name, making you foremost among the gods of Congress. You will now rule all of the gods. You will reign supreme, for further you will be my soulmate. Your orders shall not be disregarded among the Anuki. She conveyed to him the tablet of fate, clasping it at his chest. What you say will not be altered, and you will speak the law. So after Kingu had received his rank, been given Anu power, and had pronounced the fates of his sons the gods, he said, what comes out of your lips would obliterate flames. Your potent poison would serve to incapacitate the mighty. So I sent forth Anu, but he was not able to stand up to her. That's the early self. We're not able to defeat ourselves. We're just trying to convince ourselves to quit doing it. We're not doing anything more than that yet. We're just fighting with ourselves to quit. Your potent poison would serve to incapacitate the mighty. So I sent forth Anu, but he was not able to stand up to her, while Nudimmud was panic-stricken and merely came back, until Marduk, your son, most capable of the gods, emerged, and he wished of his own accord to stand against Tiamat. He raised his voice to be heard, and spoke these words to me. If I am to be your defender and defeat Tiamat to preserve you, then assemble a commission and proclaim a singular destiny. Then rest content among the others within the dwelling place of the gods, for my own words rather than yours will determine destiny. Whatever I accomplish will not be undone, never be overturned, and the verdict that issues from my lips never be rescinded. So act in haste and declare a destiny for him with all speed, that he might then go and confront your overwhelming foe. I'm going to stop right there. Okay, so that's a complete repeat. We're seeing that. We need to memorize this. We need 5,000 years ago. We're making textiles by hand, chipping rocks, taking our sheep out, watching our flock. We need something more than just a basic story. This is going to be something that is very viably. I think that it's going to very, very well work. I can picture this working in my mind much better than if it was just simplified into a short story. I can see where I would want to play this over and over and go, why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? Well, there's hints and clues in here in the repetition of it, plus the fact that it's just easier to memorize it. And it takes longer to convey as well. And it's showing the pieces and parts within you. You're talking, your internal talking to yourself. I want to take a second to remind everyone, including myself, that this is what we're looking at right now, is that the conversation down here in this green area, that's where the conversation is taking place. Anshar Kaka is relaying it to Lamu. That's where this is supposedly taking place. Meanwhile, over here in the red area, this is where Lady Huber, Kingu's in charge, the Anuki gods are there, Apsu's lost out. Tiamat, that's the part of us that has collected things, and it's turned over to Kingu right now. Our whatever's holding isn't in charge. It's something else that is in charge. And one more thing is the father gods between Lamu and Lahamu, the green area over there, even though they're being brought into the conversation right now, that's our early characteristics before we became somehow corrupted from the innocence. Those are also right now functioning with the red area there, the Kingu and all that. They need to be gotten free. They need to be set free. But anyway, that's what is all happening here verbally. We can see a structure in the verbs and nouns. We put it all together and figure it out. It's like, hey, there's a structure in here. Well, I'm not quite sure about Ia, insightful, the Damkina area, but this is where all of the bad stuff is happening. Marduk down here is waiting in the wings. Anu, not quite certain of yet, but right here in the green, that's the conversation that we just had repeat right there. That is, Anshar told to Kaka, and then, or Kaka, I don't know how to pronounce it. Anshar told Kaka, and then Kaka told Lamu. And before that, it was brought into place to begin with. That's about the third time we've heard that same repeat right there. Okay, let's continue on. We're almost finished with Tablet 3, and I think we got a pretty good handle on this. So the conversation, Lamu and Lahamu, our earliest self. And Lamu and Lahamu heard every word and cried out, and every one of the Ijiji were overcome with sad moaning. We'll get to the Ijiji later. But this is awful, for before Anshar sent us this intelligence, we had not the least idea of what Tiamat was planning to do. So earliest self didn't know what later self is going on. Why would they know? Earlier self is gone, right? We continue to evolve into something different. We're going back for a restart. We had not the least idea of what Tiamat was planning to do. They made their way and gathered the high gods who fix fate, and they came to Anshar's company, being at once cheerful, greeting one another with kisses. And there in the meeting hall, they discussed amongst themselves, sitting together for a feast. And they ate plenty of bread and imbibed the best of the wine, so that they slurped up flavorful beer through drinking straws and were made full through the consumption of the alcohol. As a result of this, they became cheerful, their hearts rejoiced, and they pronounced the destiny for Marduk, their hero. Okay, well, obviously, they've got bread, beer, and wine in their culture, so those are all parts of a good analog. But in this case, what we're looking at is just basically the idea that an early part of us is happy and joyous, being told what's going on, having a celebration here, Marduk, the hero, yay, coming back. That's all that's happening right here. So far are we up to this point on the story. We're playing it out inside. It's going to continue on this way. Is this turmoil that goes on? Yeah, it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to unwind slow. It's not that slow. The tablets are short. So, I can't think of anything else to include right now. I'll just work on the next tablet next and get everything scanned and get it loaded up here and continue working on it as like this. So if you have any questions, comments, feel free to post them below as always. And till next video, love one another. I'll see you then.